The Indians are in my district, the Isla del Sur Pueblo Tigua Indians, and we have been trying to carry legislation for them since John Cornyn shut them down. Obviously, Abramoff played a major role, and one of the tribes that was abused by Abramoff and Scanlon was the Tigua Indians, where they lost thousands and thousands of dollars. One of them is now in prison, and the investigations continue. So this particular session, in one of the issues when you deal with, power, Kerry Keel was no longer the member, and he had carried the bill for the Indians. I had been a joint author as an attorney, and he had the bill that was defense to prosecution, which basically says that, if you're gambling on an Indian reservation, it's not a crime. It's a defense to prosecution. It's a back way of getting the issue passed and not necessarily going through the constitutional route. So what happened is that we were really moving. We got the bill out. It went to the Aaron Peña's committee, criminal jurisprudence versus where the lottery commission is. And so we were able to get the bill out early. We were able to move it out onto the floor. And I was counting the votes. I had 72 votes. I was ready for the floor. And we had all the tribes, the Alabama Coshada and the Tigua Indians up in the gallery. And there was a point of order. They told me about it ahead of time. You normally know. It's not a secret. And I, called some of the old parliamentarians, and there was a question as to whether or not it was sustainable, and he sustained the point of order. So what happens is they use a real interesting coalition. Politics is about coalitions, and it is the gaming interest, which is Las Vegas and Atlanta, with the Christian Coalition. Okay, the Christian Coalition was careful because of the Abramoff. They had used them before, but this time what they did was organize in the churches. For example, Tommy Merritt is my freshman. We're in the same class together, and Tommy was my desk mate my freshman session, and Tommy has always helped me with the Indians. And he asked me, came up to me actually, the point of order happened on a Thursday, we adjourned Friday, and we come back on the floor on Monday, and he says, geez, my pastor hit me in church on your bill on Sunday. And that had never happened, never. So it gave that coalition, okay, we had the destiny locations that they wanted to set up in other parts of the state. And the big gambling interests, no, they can't do it without the Indians. And so they want the Indians interjected into their legislation, and my bill was Indians only. So we got caught up in that politics, and so 66, basically, Senator Shapley went on record with Gary Shar of the San Antonio Express and said that my bill was dead in the Senate. So when I hit up Craddock to turn a vote for me, he showed me the article. He said, your senator says it's dead. How do I throw one of my lieutenants on an issue that's dead for you? So it was a lot of politics. It was a heartbreak. First of all, there is so many avenues to derail a bill. Basically, here you have the votes. Here you're ready to take it to the floor. Here you have a gallery full of the constituency that's impacted, and you have the power of the speaker to sustain a point of order that shouldn't have been. And that was the hardest part. That is where I broke with Craddock and said, I'm not on the A team. We are, that's a fundamental issue that I should have had the opportunity to take in that bill out with a good vote to the Senate.